So, welcome back to the Renewables Podcast. Before we get into the conversation today, we just want to touch on some products from our sponsors at Proteus. And I'm going to start, Sam, with this SPD that they've got. Now, with these, you can mount them straight onto the buzz bar. You don't need to have an overcurrent protected device for them, which is super handy when we're limited for space. And we're trying to combine a smaller renewables board maybe with some EPS circuits. There's a lot of uses for these. They're absolutely fantastic. We've been using them for a good few months now, not that long out on the market. So yeah, absolutely fantastic that Proteus are looking after us as installers. And you've got another range of products over there.
I have, yeah. I've got the coloured Henley blocks, or 100 amp link blocks, as some people call them. And gone are the days. I'm a bad contractor for using the black ones for so long, the Bakelite ones, because you try and knock one of these top knockouts out and it basically shatters the full thing. And I'm guilty enough to say that I didn't know these existed. So we started using these now, and they're absolutely fantastic. Solid. You've got the little blanks in here as well. So if you don't use one of the terminals, you can blank it off or just slide it out when you do need to use it. They're fantastic, and obviously they're all coloured as well, so that you know exactly the phase colour and the colour of the cable or the phase that's going into it. So yeah,
even the
pieces.
functional earth, or the Cranis collection as it is called, in pink. And they work with the 3mm Allen keys, which is consistent through the range of the mains tails isolators as well. So they've got us at heart, I think, as installers. You're not messing around with different screws and heads. Another fantastic range of equipment to tie in with the bi-directional RCBOs, which is obviously the leading product Proteus have got at the minute.
Yeah.
And they've had that for a long time, which is really helping us again as renewables installers. And that's one of the reasons that we're so happy to be working with Proteus on this show. But without any further ado, let's get back to the chat. You're over here working with eFix at the minute. So I wanted to mention that, the eFix College connections, and I'd seen you've got some CPD modules on there. I actually did an eFix CPD module yesterday to do with continuity. Actually, you send some robust lighting ones on there.
Absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely. So we started off with an introduction to lighting design for anybody who's interested in maybe not picking up a screwdriver, but they want to be an electrician with a computer, and take a different avenue. So that's there and readily available. But the most recent one, which only launched last week, is a 5-video module, so 5 short-form videos with a series of short questions after each video, but on emergency lighting. And the people I've spoken to so far, everybody's gone, oh, I didn't know that.
That might be one for me and you to do, Mark.
I'd forgotten that. So yeah, it's there and it's readily available. You just log on to the eFix website. Just Google eFix and then Robus Emergency Lighting CPD, and it's there free of charge for anybody in the industry who wants to top up their knowledge.
Those CPD modules that eFix do, in fairness to them, are brilliant. And I'm blaming some of the wording of the questions yesterday, but I did get a few wrong on the continuity testing. And John's dead right. There's things that we think we know, but when we really sit down and actually ask questions around it, it turns out we don't know.
I actively avoid anything like that because I'd rather live in ignorance. No, you're right, and it is tricky when you're busy as a company and or just family life as well to put some time and investment into that. But like you said, there's those things that crop up, and even if it's something you're really good at, you might know 95% of it. But if you hit that 5% that you don't know, and you think, oh, that's an incremental gain that you've had in your knowledge on that topic. And sometimes it's just interesting to read and be tested on other things. Like I do, this is an admission, I do get bored of looking at solar panels from time to time. so actually looking at something else is and learning about something else is quite nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool, like you say, for anybody who's out there, and you get that one question on that one project, that one installation, it's really making you think, and you think you know the answer, but you're not sure. And then who do you turn to? There's lots of people out there that can help you, but where do you go to find that knowledge yourself? Especially if you're not getting back to the office or to home until late, or you've only got a weekend to try and top up on your knowledge before you're back onto something else. It's a great place to turn to do it in your own time when the rest of the world is asleep.
Yeah,
and you can just top up your knowledge, and then you get back and you just clear up whatever that topic was you picked up on the previous day.
I think most electricians turn to GSH and eFix when they're struggling on bending conduit or doing anything really. It's on there, isn't it?
It is.
It's just the default resource.
Yeah, I wish I don't think there was an awful lot on YouTube when I was doing my apprenticeship, but it is such a great resource for people nowadays looking at their, doing their AM2 or doing, I mean, you've done some really good stuff as well, Mark, on all of it. I haven't because I don't know enough about it to do it, but it's one of those areas now where you can watch it in at any time of day on your own. You can rewatch it, you can add, ask questions and everything. It's just such a great resource. And I think it sometimes gets overlooked how powerful those sorts of things on YouTube are. But anyway, that's a separate note. But one thing I wanted to bring this back to on renewables was lowering the consumption levels within a property might save you, yes, money on your energy bills through not having to consume as much energy to run that lighting, but also potentially on a battery storage system because you're not having to put as big a battery in to cover that consumption. So if you can lower the home's consumption, and let's face it, lots of properties have, lights inside, lights outside, everything's got lights on it. Like if you can reduce the lighting consumption, then you might be able to drop down potentially a battery size to cover that home's daily consumption, which was a point you raised earlier, which is quite interesting.
Absolutely. The target across the UK is 95 lumens per circuit watt for a product.
Right.
So 95 lumens of light per watt that you're putting into a product. With downlights, with a commercial style product, we're now getting to a stage, it's very difficult with downlight, believe it or not, but we're now getting to a stage where we're up to 125, nearly 130 lumens per circuit watt. When the LED is within the product, the optic is on and the bezel's put on the front. So any losses within that are accounted for as well. And we're still getting that range of maybe 125 or slightly upwards of lumens per circuit watt. When you talk about commercial lighting, say linear lighting, vaporproof, we've just launched the Harbour Express, and that's delivering up to 171 lumens per circuit watt. So if you're talking commercial buildings, you're even more within the realms of greater performance, which is then going to support your solar and your battery storage even more. It's much greater.
There's two aspects to that, isn't there? I think there's as you said, Sam, getting your base load down. So when you're trying to cover off a single day's consumption, and certainly in winter, lighting's going to be a big part of even a normal household's consumption. But also the times you've got a power cut, you want to try and, I mean, the stuff that I would consider critical would be lighting. So if you can edge that ever lower, then the time you maybe are off grid, you can sustain yourself for longer. There's two little angles on that there. So I think it's something that a lot of consumers do need to do the work on, but maybe don't. They're lazy, aren't they, I guess? And they just want the solar panels and the battery storage system in to solve the problem. But if you, and I'm looking at this in my own home, actually, I'm thinking of the number of spotlights we've got is frankly ridiculous. We don't need that many lights in my house. And then the garden light, where we've still got an old floodlight up there that comes on all the time with cats running across the back and stuff. And getting all of that chopped away makes a lot of sense. It's not expensive, is it, really?
No, it's not. And, throughout this podcast, it's been highlighted to me these fluorescents that I've got in this area. And we've still got some, some very, very high running wattage high bays or low bays. I can't remember what they are now, high bays. And every time they come on, I'm just like, I really do need to get these changed. But, it's sometimes it's not always the first thing you look to when you're looking at this. You're kind of looking at kind of the way to solve those high energy bills as generate your own power, but actually looking internally into that property and going, well, what is using the most power? And we've obviously got smart meters have come on hugely so that we can actually see every half an hour what we're using. So you can actually, even if you're not employing an electrician to do things, if you have got, pendants where you can change that, 60 watt halogen lamp out and you're actually putting an LED in, you can then start to see on your smart meter that impact. And you mentioned, Mark, about wintertime. Like wintertime is obviously when you're generating the least from your solar as well. So you can really elongate that battery's storage capacity by reducing that home's consumption. It's almost like the other side of the coin that none of us ever look at, isn't it? We look at the side where you're getting this flashy solar PV system with batteries and it's all singing new app and everything. But actually on the other side of the coin, it's equally as important to look at what you're using, when you're using it, and if you could be doing that more efficiently.
Yeah, it's the base load of lighting, isn't it, I think? when you're looking to spec a system, you want to know what the customer's peak demand might be to try and start off with your battery inverter size, and then what the base load might be. And typically for us as installers, we're going into these properties in the sunnier sort of March to October time of year, because we're fair weather installers to a large degree. And we're maybe not considering enough what that winter base load might be. Because again, knowing in my own home, that base load does go up with all the lighting being on every evening. Now, it's that, we call it parasitic load, but it's a base load. You need the lights on. But even with LED lighting, it ramps up. And every hour that it's on there, it's slowly discharging that battery, taking some consumption. And if you're working with 13.5 kilowatt hours of storage, as I am, trying to get the maximum value from that with a cheap overnight charge rate by limiting your lighting is a good, easy win, really.
Yeah. And what do you think about smart lighting, John? Have you got anything?
The smart lighting has been in the market. We've got a range of smart lighting, and it's Wi-Fi driven. So you don't have to have a gateway, which you got to pay a lot of money for. Anybody can install it. You can go from a lamp to a downlight to a doorbell. And the whole system sort of talks and breathes together almost. I think it's incredibly powerful, because going back to what I said at the beginning, where the colour of your lighting can impact your circadian rhythm, your sleep pattern, your peak pattern, your health pattern. If you have the right colour light at the right time of day, which you can do by tunable lighting, which is within smart lighting via an app, you get into being a much better place. I've found it myself working from home. It's a dark, miserable day outside, which we seem to get a lot, not so much in Wales, but we do get it across the UK, I'm sure you know. And as soon as you get that, you get it in the afternoon and you've had your lights on that sort of very warm, say 2,700, 3,000 Kelvin, and you get out in the afternoon and you start to feel a little bit nauseous. You start to feel a little bit sick, because all you're doing is you're telling your body to turn on your melatonin, and your body's going, okay, it's hot tub moment, it's that relaxing second you sit back, not we should be in work and covering some ground here. So smart lighting, number one, from an energy, a physical power point of view, is very good, because if you can zone your property, yes, you want some good lighting in your kitchen and probably in your bathroom, but in the bedroom or the living room, do you need them burning at 100%? Or could you turn it down? Or with smart lighting, could you identify, if you've got 10 light fittings in your kitchen, in your living room, could you identify 4 of those through your smart lighting and just leave the 4 on and turn the rest off, instead of having them burn it? So from a physical power point of view, again, it's very powerful.
I think everyone loves that sort of technology as well, don't they? Like to, a lot of the time, I think it's been, the lighting side of things has kind of been up to the electrician. It's kind of like, oh, we want some downlights. The customer gets a choice of the colour of the bezel, and sometimes the colour of the light's a bit easier now. You've got like the 3 position sort of fittings where you can change it, so you can kind of change it when you're putting them in. But I think it's almost been like, oh, that's what the electrician put in, that's what we've got. But when you get the smart lighting side of things, it's a bit more, like you say, tunable to that customer. And also, if they move out, it's then tunable to the next person if they have this, if they're able to log into it. And I think people like to play around with things like apps and things like that. That if they also have the mindset of, right, I'm going to think about getting a solar and battery storage system, let's see what I can actually do. And if they're just messing around with an app, it's easier than them kind of getting up on the step ladder trying to work out how to unplug a couple of lights to see what's happening. So I think that tunable, that ability to tune the lighting is something that I've not even ever really explored.
Yeah. My boy Jacob is a crusader in turning every light on in the house, no matter what day or what time of year it is, and leaving the room and leaving it on. Even going to school and leaving everything on.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to be able to be, here, and I live down in South Wales, but I could just sort of open up the app and say, right, there's nobody in the house now. All the lights are on, and I can just go ping, 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 and turn everything off.
Yeah.
So again, that links back into your storage facility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So my kids are the same. They're just, I'll go and turn the lights off everywhere, and 2 minutes later they're all back on. I don't know how they do it. It's like,
that's just what happens. I mean, mine are too young yet for any of that. But yeah, I think there's this whole other world of, like I say, it's like the other side of the coin. Like just having this conversation that I'm guilty of not, I don't think, fully considering when chatting to customers. And I think the reason for that is in this current environment, you're scared of of over engineering a solution sometimes, but actually there are a lot of customers that are kind of receptible to that and going, oh, okay, yeah, well, actually, we are thinking of having some new downlights. Let's look at maybe a smart lighting solution. And I feel like there'll be a transition with solar and battery where electricians that are just doing solar and battery like ourselves are maybe going to get dragged a bit further back into standard electrical work as part of their renewables package, because there are all these other smart solutions out there that can save that customer money. Ultimately, that's what they want. They want a solution to save them money, increase safety through the PAS document, through smoke alarms, through emergency lighting, and all of that, and almost offer that as a package with heat pumps on the plumbing side. So I feel like the waters are going to be quite muddied with like lots of different specialisms, but I think that's what makes a good installer. If they're looking at all these different parts, you can buy a solar and battery system off Facebook Marketplace, from just random companies just selling it for an unbelievably low price, but you can guarantee they've not looked at any of this. And I think that's how really good installers continue to grow, is they start to broaden out kind of the advice that they can offer. Even if they don't do it, they can offer advice to say, you might want to chat to your electrician about potentially changing all these lighting.
Yeah.
All these lights.
There's a big potential there, I think, for lots of installers. And you're dead right, Sam, it's safety and kind of the upsell of features. The safety side of it is probably the harder sell, which is weird. Trying to persuade a customer to have smoke alarms and emergency lights, or you can have a snazzy LED tape light up your stairs. They'll take the tape light and tell you not to bother with the emergency lights and smoke. That's the mind of most customers. So I think that's an education piece for us, maybe, is people offering those proposals in an industry. But then there's the upselling features, and there's maybe a bit of a marrying up of the two there. I've just been thinking in my own mind that if you had your smoke alarms going off, and I know this is a function in some lighting systems, but you could have the lights start to flash around the house to make people aware. They may not hear the alarm if it's one that's out in the garage and the interlink's not working or whatever, to have the lights all start flashing. What's going on? That gets people's awareness, doesn't it? So there's those kind of tie-ups as well that are maybe a function. I'm just thinking to join in with the PAS document and this kind of notification that the battery's on fire. It's going to be an easy win.
There'll be people shouting at their radio, "Don't add anything else to that PAS document, please." But it's the course that these kind of regulations take. It's like these discussions, isn't it, around having those ideas around what could we do to make people's homes safer. Like you guys said, you don't want emergency lights until you want them. You don't want smoke alarms until you want them. And so maybe it is something that needs to be considered a bit more. Yeah. I might do it. I might do that for you on my next few proposals, and see what sort of uptake there are.
Yeah, I mean, if it's there as an additional extra, no one's really losing anything by seeing it.
Yeah.
And that story that you'd shared, was it Sea Green?
Yeah, Bill.
Bill with the battery and the fire that had happened in that property.
Yes.
That's the time when you need, going back to emergency lighting and smoke alarms. It's very rare. It's unlikely to ever happen to any one of us sat here that there'd be a fire in our homes. But if it did happen, you'd be wanting to be the person who's got smoke alarms and emergency lighting.
Yeah, I'd much rather be a contractor that got an email on a Monday morning to say we had a house fire, nothing related to what you fitted, but the smoke alarms got us up and the emergency lights got us out, than be that one to say I wish I'd gone with our smoke alarms because something serious happened and we had to get rescued by the fire brigade that's carry us out, kind of thing. So, and let's face it, that might happen to, out of 15 stores, that might happen to one of them in their entire career. But like I said, the risk of it happening is going up because there's so many more devices we have in our houses. You just have to look at how many sockets and light fittings that people had. I remember, I think it was my house when we bought ours, we had one pendant at the edge of the room and there was like 2 sockets in the room.
Yeah.
And now we've got USB sockets, we've got
teaming lights.
we've got so much more things, which does increase that risk factor. But yeah, you raise a good point, Mark, about the flashing of the flashing LEDs and things like that. Do you see that as part of kind of the emergency lighting side of things to warn people that there's a problem in that property? Probably more commercial.
It is more commercial at the moment. We are seeing a shift towards smart emergency lighting. So it'll be a pixelated emergency lighting sign, which the exit will change, the arrow will change direction, dependent on where the power outage or where the fire may be, to lead you away from it and use a separate door. Now that takes a lot of installation and a lot of data cabling, and you wouldn't want a system like that to be wireless. 'Cause if you lose your broadcaster, you've lost everything straight away.
Yeah.
So it's a much bigger job, and it's a big commissioning cost at the end of it right now to make sure it's right and signed off. But that is certainly what the market is considering, and it's growing in Europe, and soon that'll come to our shores as well. But on the domestic side of it, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, wouldn't it be great if emergency lighting installations spoke to the smoke alarm installation and spoke to maybe the fire alarm installation and got it together, so we put in emergency lights in the right places, not having to go back and put an extra one in to cover a fire extinguisher or a break glass afterwards.
Yeah.
Thinking in the world of API link-ups and stuff, we can get energy retailers to talk to these inverters and do all the smart tariffs. Surely we can get them to link up with smart lighting and talk to each other.
It's the drive to do it, I think, isn't it? It's not what can it be done. It's the drive to actually go and do it. And I think that's like you mentioned, the safety side of things tends to be the last bit because it's not flashy. It's
sad,
not
but
exciting.
true, isn't it? It's so sad.
But we're all guilty of that, of not pushing that more, and that's kind of the challenge that we're finding now as Oval is pushing that more, and effectively it costing us jobs because we're more expensive. But that's just the nature of trying to push things forward. And like I said to a lot of our customers, if you go with us, we'll make sure that we've considered all of the advice out there, not just kind of gone, this is a box moving company where we're just going to fit you a box to the wall kind of thing. And part of that is these conversations now. I'm thinking, right, well, we're going to have to add a whole new catalogue now of emergency lights to add in. Because you will get people that will see the value in that.
Oh, you will. It's a USP in a way, isn't it? You can stand out amongst the crowd. No one else has mentioned emergency lights to me. What's all this about? And the customer might start looking, and that's where the penny finally drops from, that actually these contractors are maybe the ones who are paying more attention to stuff I do need to be aware of, and it's not just about trying to get something for the lowest possible cost.
Yeah.
It's that kind of discussion, isn't it? And I guess you see that in the world of LED lighting, John. There's all this stuff that you can get on Amazon that's coming over from China by the boatload that is in no way comparative to what you're producing at Robus. And those kind of discussions with your customers.
Absolutely. We've actually just we're just about to put a piece into Professional Electrician about emergency lighting. One thing with all of Robus emergency lighting is it's either 650 degree or 850 degree for Europe glow wire tested, which means if a fire should start from an arc within the product, it's self-extinguishing. So the product doesn't burn off the ceiling before we're actually able to get out of the door.
Right.
And likewise, if the fire starts outside of the product, it's still, as soon as you remove the flame, if you like, it puts itself out. So you maintain your emergency light source for as long as physically possible when you've got a fire roaring away in the background, to allow people at least that 3 hours to get out. And that's a key piece, that if emergency lighting isn't tested and approved, is it really emergency lighting? I think would be the question.
Yeah. Yeah, well, just to quickly touch on something that I was quite interested in, do you still see, apart from myself in this, but do you still see a lot of commercial properties not having considered upgrading their lighting to emergency lighting? Or do you think quite a lot of those companies have got the picture now on that?
I think emergency lighting, unless there's an emergency, people do the bare minimum. So they'll invest in a supporter, a competent person, maybe a business, to come around and test their fire alarm, and at the same time test their emergency lighting. You still often go around a building and see emergency lights with the red indicator, not the green indicator light, which were many, many years ago. And that's fine. If they're still healthy, then there's no point in replacing it. And I'm a big advocate of that. But it is literally, if it fails, they replace it with whatever they can find in the market. It might be an Amazon type special, but whatever's in the marketplace that on the title and the spec sheet, it does the same job. They don't take into consideration, and probably an awareness because things they don't know, but they don't take into consideration, what are the batteries? Is it self-extinguishing? Is it iCell approved, which we as Robus are going through the process now, are working with iCell as part of the LIA to ensure that all of our emergency light fittings are approved independently. So it's not just saying what Robus want to tell you; it's independently verified by the industry body.
Okay. Yeah, I've not heard of that one
No,
before.
me either. That's a fresh one on me.
And so, in terms of the LED lighting as well, then in a business, do you think businesses have kind of started that in general, that changeover from all these other different types of light fittings that we've had over the years, fluorescent, all the sodium stuff, and all these other different ones? Do you think that businesses have seen the value of changing to LED over all these different types of light fitting, or do you think there's still a hell of a lot of them out there that don't even consider it?
There's still a hell of a lot out there that haven't taken. They may have considered it, but they haven't taken action on it. I remember pre-COVID having a conversation, and it was forecast that by 2025 the UK would experience leadification, meaning that 90 to 95% of all commercial industrial buildings had made the switch over to LED light sources. But you've only got, I had a 5-hour drive up here. And as soon as you're going through any city where you've got maybe an office block, and you can see, big windows, you can see that there's nobody physically in it, maybe a security guard doing a wander around. But they've normally got the 600 or 600 fluorescents, and they're burning at 100% throughout the night. And you can quite see the difference. You can see the difference between that and what would be an LED panel. So there's still a huge.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that's just, if they have considered it, do you think it's the capital cost of doing that upgrade? Because they're going to, like we mentioned, that they're going to get the money back. But do you think it's just the cost or the aggro of having to have it done? Or
It can be exactly that. Yes, budget and capex. Yes, it can be that it's a rented property, and it's down to the landlord to make the decision and not the tenant. And you've got that sort of little bit of an inner civil war going on between them, and the decision just doesn't get made. So there's a number of reasons, but at some point, with the fluorescence being in decline now, at some point people are going to get forced, whether they like it or not, to make a change. And instead of being able to do it on a floor-by-floor basis, perhaps, they're going to have to do it all at once.
I think there's a market there for us as electricians and for companies like Robus still. I see it on the estate where we are. I don't think half of them have got LEDs. The 2-3 rows of council-owned ones have all been converted, but I'm pretty sure none of the rest have. I'm pretty sure. And again, I think it's that problem. I think they're all rented. So the owners don't want to make the investment in the lighting for the landlord. But bizarrely, as you've said, Sam, they get the money back in a year, maybe 2. Yeah. You don't have to stay long to get it back.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is just such a great. I'm sat here thinking it's such a great investment when we're sat under the fluorescent lights of this area. But to be fair, in fairness, this room it's the first time this room has been used for this length of time. So, I might have to see about getting an upgrade. See what John's got in the back of his van. But no, that's been so interesting having a look over that.
I think before we close this one out, John, it's just your kind of views going forward for Robus. Is there new products in your range that are coming? Do you still see strong growth in your sales pipeline and stuff? We were talking about the challenges of the budget and stuff for next year as those really small companies. Are Robus well set? You got some new innovation coming?
We have. The LED market has been relatively stagnant with new technology. We were one of the first businesses to launch chip on board, driver on board. It was a downlight a few years back. But with the fluctuation of current throughout the UK, it just wasn't a sustainable light source in a downlight type format. So that's kind of we've gone back to the previous model, if you like. But smart lighting, commercial smart lighting is big, and that's wireless. We used to do DALI, and it was a cable system. Considering wireless systems that can hijack DALI, so we can take in the DALI signal from a BMS, but transfer that signal through a self-healing mesh to, so if you've got a lead-lined firewall, it'll bounce around that instead of trying to go through it. And that'll go up to something like 3 kilometers. So for big buildings, and that's remote, so you can have multi-sites, multi-occupancy, but control that from a head-end computer, maybe on a different continent. So that's on its way down the line. We see a lot of product now that's dual wattage or multi-wattage. So you got the switchability. You can have a 5-watt downlight combined with a 7-watt downlight, so the same product, and it does different things around the home, and it's dimmable as well, so you're getting the energy efficiency that way. And 3 CCT, so a product with 3,000, 4,000, and maybe 6,000 Kelvin in it, so you can blend LED. But that's a physical switch, that's a manual switch. So if you install something and the client changes their mind or decides they don't like the color, it's a nice easy fix as an installer. Just go back and flick a switch. But I think that the tunability, I can see maybe not now over the next 2 or 3 years, but over the next maybe 10 years, I think that'll slowly evolve into tunable, where it's digitized. It'll have a protocol engaged with it. So again, I'm going back to it, but it'll link into our health, it'll link into your circadian rhythm, and it'll allow us to push forwards within the lighting sector.
Yeah. Everyone's got their, everyone we have on this podcast has obviously got their own little niche and their own kind of expert view on the lighting side of it. I never would have even thought about the circadian rhythm side of things of lighting and what have you. So yeah, that's been an eye opener for me. So yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to come and chat to us on that one. And did you have anything else to add, Mark, on that?
I was just going to close by asking about, we've mentioned about the life cycle of the LED fittings and the recycling. I assume with manufacturers, do you take product back to be recycled, or is that a case of it just going into the normal recycling of things?
We're lucky with LED light sources now that they can be recycled outside us taking them back, because there's no harmful chemical as such within it. So we are incredibly lucky with that in comparison to where we used to be. But we are signed up with people, something like Lumicom. So as a project, we take the product back that's being taken out, and they'll recycle it on our behalf, or we can take it back. I mean, we're based in Dublin, so it's a bit harder to ship it across the sea. Sometimes it's not as efficient as it should be, because we've got the extra output of diesel engines to get it there. So often we'll do that sort of UK-based or island-based if the project is island or even continental Europe. But yeah, we are totally signed up. We've been working towards net zero for with our ESG and sustainability project. We are all over that, so that key part of that is ensuring whatever gets taken out for Robus to be put back in is dealt with, and not just thrown over the sea wall. And that's dealt with properly, and it's fully certificated, so we can physically prove where it's been or where it goes.
I mean, that busts that myth, I think, doesn't it, that a lot of this just ends up in your green bin and in landfill. It might do, but that's not the fault of the industry or the manufacturer. That's the fault of consumers and maybe us as installers not fully understanding what can be done. I've loved this chat. I think it's been a great sidestep to the normal content we do around inverters and batteries and stuff. It's been a nice mix-up and bringing some chat in and around saving money from LED light, but also efficiency in terms of health and well-being. And I'm going to have a further read up on that, and it's certainly going to prompt me into putting some emergency lights at home. So thanks, John. Massively loved that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that, John. I've really appreciated your time and everything on that. And like I said, it's been nice to kind of take a little bit of a side step from just solar and battery and look at something that is affecting us fitting solar and battery and maybe the sizes of solar and battery and what we can help advise customers on, both commercially and domestically, on making their homes and businesses safer, but also more energy efficient with having lower levels of energy being used in the house. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Gentlemen, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. So from myself and from Roberts, thank you for the invite, and and hospitality as well.
No problem. You want to lead us out there, Matt?
I can do, yes. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please, as always, drop your comments in. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up alongside the show and give it a share on the socials as well. I'll drop a link in the description of this one to the Robus eFix CPD we've discussed, and a link back over to the Robus website so you can have a look at some of their products should you wish. And otherwise, we'll see you all on the next one.
Thank you.